Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the number one most valuable real estate community in existence. Today's a casual Friday. Come as you are. We're going to make waves today. I'm going to invite some people to come and join us in the live stream here. And we are going to run it just as we always do. Always something to learn from these streams. Every day we're getting 1% better. We got Savion, Adam, Dalton, Frederick, Miles, Tom, Brandon, Wael. Good morning. We got Jovi. Good morning. Good morning. Leo. Good morning, everybody. How are we doing today? Let us know in the side chat where everybody's joining in from, what markets you guys are working. This is that opportunity to connect and let people know that they can do business with you. You'd be surprised, people that are watching the replay of this live stream, they can tap in and they'll see this and they'll think, okay, these are the people, this is where they're at, this is what they do. Let's see if we can work together. Great to see you as well, Tom. We got Dalton in Utah, Adams in New Jersey. It's Friday, but it's another day to get after it, another day to do business. We stand on business. We got offers going out today. We got people reviewing them. We're getting back. We're going to get an agreement signed today. I'm feeling good. I know it's going to get signed today. Brandon says, good morning from Northern Virginia area in the DMV, Florida, and Ohio. Let's connect. Drop this blink card. Wonderful. Welcome. Good morning. Good morning. We had a couple of guys in the call earlier this week that are also heavily in the DMV. I would connect with Dennis and Damien. Both of those guys are in the DMV. Damien's more of Virginia. He said he's looking for a flip in Newport News. And Damien, he's all over. He just got a flip in Kensington, Maryland. So just putting yourself out there, letting people know, where you're at and what you do. People like me, I remember everybody that talks about where they're at. I'm happy to refer people, to get connected. Come and join us. Join to get 1% better each day. 1% better today. Tag everybody, let them know the live is happening. I'll tell you this, I have a pretty good memory. When it comes to the leads, though, we talk to so many people, it can get tough, to keep track of all these leads. So one of the things that I've been using is, and this is actually a great use case for AI, I built this AI bot. It will plug into any Go High Level CRM. I just happen to use ListBlast, but whatever Go High Level CRM you use, it can work there as well. And what it does is it will take the transcripts of the calls and it will summarize them and put it in the notes of your lead. So you got the whole transcript. All right. And I'm going to put you all on some AI game right now. So if you guys are listening, take notes. This is something that everybody can easily implement immediately. This is going to boost your productivity 10x. All right. Take the transcript of your calls. Okay. Get the transcript. Either record them in your CRM or record a video and upload it to YouTube and get the transcript. Whatever you got to do, get that transcript, copy that transcript, paste it into Claude or ChatGPT if you're living under a rock. Paste it into Claude, and then you can ask Claude specific questions and have it respond based off of what the seller said on the phone. That's so helpful to understand the condition, the timeline, their motivation, their price, any specific property characteristics, depending on what type of deal you're going after. If you're going after commercial stuff, how many units, how many are occupied, all that stuff. Everything that you talk about so that, and here's the most important part, you can be present on the phone, right? So many people can get caught up and mess up the flow of the conversation when you're trying to take notes and you're trying to talk to the seller. And sometimes that initial discovery call sounds more like an interview or an interrogation than a conversation, right? So having the bot do all of this for you allows you to remain present on the phone. So very, very cool. This is something that everybody can easily implement in their business today and see immediate value. So that's definitely one of the gems from today's call. Strongly suggest that everybody start doing that if you haven't already. It's also great especially if you're just getting started, you want to really develop your ability to sell over the phone, right? So if people, are just getting started, they have no sales background, you've got to evaluate your calls. You need to be recording your calls. You need to be looking over your calls. And I'm of the belief that, the best sales tactic is no tactic. It's a framework. You know how the conversation should go. You know what you really need to be talking about. You know what subjects to hit. But you got to do it in your own way. There's no real script to follow. But what's good is if you get the transcript of your call, you can identify those key moments where you're having specific conversations about specific topics. And then you can see, okay, this is what I did well, and this is how I can improve. So dissect those call transcripts if you aren't already. Man, we got 20 people joining us today. I think most people are probably still asleep. I'm feeling like we're getting the day started. It's 11 a.m.? People are still rolling out of bed right now. Berkey asks, for money lenders, does this work also? I mean, yeah, it will work for any type of call you do. I think you should definitely record your calls and see where, you're performing well and where you can improve. It's Friday. They decided to take the morning off. That's the difference between the top 1% and the rest of everybody else. The people that show up, it can be a casual day. You don't have to go all out every day. Make today the casual day, but still show up. That's how you get 1% better, is by remaining consistent. That's the secret. Everybody looks at people that have accomplished things, that have multiple properties, and they ask themselves, they ask the people, what's the secret? The secret is just showing up. That's it. Showing up, putting your best foot forward each day. And here's the most important part, is when you stumble, because when you're running, you can trip, you get back up and you get right back to it. You don't sulk. You don't waste time. You get back into the rhythm. And so that's why we host this call Monday through Friday, is to make sure that we can realign ourselves with our goals and keep it pushing. Mr. Mitchell, I'm a money lender if you need funds. Mr. Mitchell, feel free to tell us a little bit about what you do. What are the requirements, to get a loan from you? These are the things that people want to hear. You'd be surprised. There are plenty of people. The opportunity is abundant in this community, ladies and gentlemen. Abundant. The people that are in here, especially going direct to seller marketing, they either assign the deals or they get themselves in a position where now it's time to start taking these down themselves. And if that's the case, they need a private money lender or hard money lender. So let us know what you do and how people can work with you. As always, I want to invite anybody, that wants to tap in on the live stream today to come up, talk about what you are up to in your business, what you got cooking, any hurdles that you overcame this week. This is just as much your stage as it is mine. It's an open room, and this is that opportunity, to get in front of the community, not only the people that are here in this audience, but the people that are watching the replays, the people that watch the reels. You'd be surprised just how many opportunities you can attract to yourself by putting yourself out there and letting people know what you do and where you're at. So the last couple of lives, we've been starting it off with, some mindset stuff. What did we say we were going to do today? Remind me, Adam. We came up with it in the chat. Wax on, wax off. Wax on, wax off. Sometimes it can seem elementary, man. The stuff that we talk about, it seems pretty basic. It seems like stuff you already know. But that's where the secret lies, is to remember and remind yourself what you have to do each day. Wax on, wax off. See, the Karate Kid, he didn't quite understand, why was he waxing the car? Wax on, wax off. Wax on, wax off. Until eventually, his preparation met opportunity, and that's where he got lucky. See, so many people, they want to get to that next deal, but are they prepared to handle the conversation that will lead to that next deal? This is that opportunity to prepare yourself. If anybody up here wants to get into a role play, talk about a scenario, handle objections, ask questions, underwrite deals. This is that space. This is that time for you. Don't be shy. Hopefully, we're posting the correct link here. Let me make sure I got the correct link so that people can hop in here. Let's see. This looks like a link. Don't know if it's the correct link. Let me try to invite to here. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Looks like it's working. Bada bing, bada boom. Jay, if you feel comfortable, I'd love to highlight one of the conversations that we had yesterday, and this would be a good learning experience, for I think everybody that's in here. If you want to pop up, if you're in a position where you can hop on the mic, hop on the stage, I think this is going to be a good one. I want to talk about the pre-foreclosure situation in Las Vegas. Beautiful, beautiful. We got Jay coming up. Good morning, good morning, good morning, ladies and gentlemen.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning, Jay. How are you doing?
Good, and yourself?
I'm well, blessed. Grateful to be in here.
Great. Yes, sir.
So, Jay, I want to talk to you because, we were talking about this yesterday. You're calling the leads and everything. And you came on with a guy that's in a rough spot. He's in a rough spot. Foreclosure is imminent. He's about to lose his house on the 22nd to the auction. Okay. Now, for people to follow along with me, wherever you're at, this guy owes $345,000 on his house, right? Jay, did you get back photos to see what type of condition the property was in?
No photos yet.
No photos yet. Okay.
No.
So obviously, we want to help everybody that we work with, right? We don't want to just leave anybody out to die. But in some situations, what I find is, the opportunity cost of focusing your attention on stuff that is just not going to give you, a positive result or a result that, the juice is worth the squeeze. Let's run through these numbers real quick, right? So in this case scenario, the house is probably worth, $390,000 to a retail buyer in a as-is condition, right? So Dalton, he was running the numbers yesterday. You got to deduct the 10% if you're going to list it as an ovation, right? So that gives us a balance of $351 after closing costs and commission, right? Now, we got to factor in at least helping the seller break even, right? So he has a mortgage balance of $345,000, right? And that might even be before a 5% prepayment penalty or whatever the prepayment penalty is, if there is one, which sometimes you'll see. But let's say for this example that the balance is, the $345. With the seller making $0, right, before any concessions, before any requests, for repairs or any money spent, there's only a $6,000 spread. What I find is these deals that are less than, $15,000, $20,000 after all worst case scenario stuff, they evaporate. And it's unfortunate, but there are sometimes just no way that we can help a person out of a situation with a specific strategy. Now, that doesn't mean that there's absolutely nothing we can do with this lead, but I just don't think that it's going to fit the model that we have of listing it as either an ovation or assigning it to an investor off market, right? So what do we do in a situation where, the spread is only, a few $1,000s and, foreclosure is kind of imminent? Well, number one, right, we got to try to extend the timeline on that foreclosure, right? So we could try to encourage this guy to file for bankruptcy, if he hasn't already. And let's say that he can successfully do that. He's going to delay the foreclosure. It's not going to stop the foreclosure. But let's say that we can delay the foreclosure. What's next? What's the next step? Well, it doesn't change anything about the numbers. So, I mean, his only option would be to short sale the property. And so, if you guys remember, we brought on some experts, Mr. Steve Schiller and Patrick Butler. And these guys came on, and Mr. Juan Nicasio, of course, shout out Mr. ACQ. These guys came on and explained the short sale process and actually showed us step by step, what we can actually do to help these sellers and essentially be hands off. So these guys, they make their spread on a deal because they receive a 2% agent commission, right? These guys are the ones that are negotiating with the bank, and they know how to kind of, finagle the numbers here to create a little bit of equity if it's a possibility, and they'll negotiate with the lender to get them to accept, a lower payoff because the property is just not going to sell, for the price necessary in the amount of time that they have, right? If it needs repairs and, houses in the area are going for, let's say, $375, which is like a house that needs repairs, after the closing costs and everything, the net would be $337, and that's less than the balance, right? So you're going to find people in these situations. So what can you do when the house is worth less than the balance of the mortgage, right? That's where you have to go into a short sale. And that's where I'd say it makes more sense to delegate this work so that you can continue to focus on, finding that next opportunity that is going to fit the model, but you can still monetize this opportunity that you spent a little bit of time on, right? So what does that look like for them? Well, their model looks like they for sure have a margin of 2%, okay? So that's of the total sale price. So let's just say worst case scenario, $300,000 is, maybe somewhere in the ballpark of what the lender would accept, right? So if they're getting 2% of that, that looks like, $6,000, right? The other thing that they can do is try to negotiate a 5% buyer's premium, right? So that looks like $15,000. And that's not a guarantee. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But, one thing to keep in mind is the split on a deal like this where it goes to a short sale is going to be generally smaller, than an assignment or, any other opportunity unless you're flipping it. But here's what I want to talk about the short sales here real quick, right? Because we might have thought, okay, this might be, the answer, this is the solution, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be able to be involved in the acquisition of the deal past that point, right? And I say this why. The property must be listed on the market for a minimum of a weekend, right? So some lenders will accept, hey, from Friday to Monday, you can have it listed, you collect all the offers, each lender is going to have their specific requirement, right? But some of them will allow you to list it for at least a weekend, and from there, you're going to field all the offers and present the ones that seem the strongest to the lender and try to move forward with one of them, right? You could still try to present a lower offer than that you could assign it to an end buyer for, and that might be an opportunity, to make the spread in addition to the 2% for them working the deal and the potential 5% buyer's premium. But the reality is, if it hits the open market, you're opening up the can of worms, right? So you don't really know, if other offers are going to come in, and if they do, at what price. The end buyers, they might submit the offers that are going to be higher than where you'd need to be at to be able to assign it to them. And the reality is the spread on that scenario is going to be, much smaller. But something's better than nothing. Even if it's, $500 or $1,000 or maybe even a few $1,000s, depending on, the situation, and if they can negotiate something on that buyer's premium side, that 5% of the buyer's premium, is better than, zero, and you're still helping the seller. But you're also saving time so that you're not focusing on an opportunity you want to make work that just isn't worth it, right? So sometimes we got to be using our discernment on, opportunity and opportunity cost, right? Because your focused energy going on this opportunity, this isn't just at Jay, but at anybody, if it's going on an opportunity that could potentially make, $5,000, and that's the best case scenario, we might be overlooking other opportunities that are coming to us where there's an opportunity to make maybe $20,000, $30,000, right? So just something to consider, for everybody that's in here that comes across a scenario like this where maybe it doesn't make sense, to take this sub 2 and catch up the arrears. If short sale is the only option, I want to let you know that you do have a resource, and you can submit it to the website at reirev.com/deals/submit. And all you got to do is submit the lead that's motivated there that just doesn't make sense for your model, and we can see, if there's something we can do. But Adam says, sometimes I'll do a listing referral in a scenario like this, and you definitely need a license, to get money off of referral. But Adam is also a great resource. And then also just for listings in general, there are people in here like Don. They do listing referrals as well. So moral of the story is, you have all of the resources you could possibly need, to be able to solve these situations. I think that people just got to be a little bit more mindful of what the compensation looks like, and is it actually worth our individual time, to focus on each and every single one of these. Does that make sense, everybody? Let me know in the side chat if you took something away from that. Because, ideally, I would want everybody in here to focus on the highest leverage activities, right? Every conversation, you could have a 20, 30-minute conversation to talk about, $5,000 deal, or you could have a 20, 30-minute conversation, talking about a $25,000 deal, right? And that's just the reality of it. Time's going to pass, but the topic that you're discussing, is it a $100K house, or is it a $200,000 house? Is it a $300,000 house? Is it a multi-million-dollar property, right? These are the questions we got to ask ourselves. And then, decide accordingly. How's everything been going with you, Jay? How do you feel about the leads that you've been talking to recently, the conversations you've been having? What are some hurdles or bottlenecks that you think you've been facing and have overcome, in the last couple weeks?
Not too many hurdles. Only thing is, you just got to get people to answer the phone. Maybe it's because of the time of day I'm calling, 'cause I'm calling pretty early. Like I start at 11 and down to like 6. But other than that, it's pretty good. We got a couple under contract. I think we have to schedule with the tenants for a property in, where's this one? Perrysburg, Ohio, which is right outside of Toledo. That's going to be a pretty good one. We just have to give a notice to the tenants that we're going to send somebody through there, get pictures, and maybe try to send a buyer in there at the same time.
Beautiful. If there's anybody in Perrysburg, Ohio, or working outside the Toledo market, this is an opportunity for you. Let us know if you're interested. We can send you the information.
Ricky, that deal's pending today. I think I'm speaking with him today, trying to negotiate because it's a package deal.
Is that for the house and the duplex?
Yeah.
The seller finance?
Yeah, seller finance. I sent him POF yesterday. I'm going to reach out to him in a few hours and see where he's at.
Beautiful. Berkey asks, is 15K profit at best is not worth it? Would working of a percentage be better? It depends. It really depends on the deal, and it depends on the size of the deal. A 15K profit is pretty standard, right? But what you don't want to do is you don't want to really chase these small deals. You don't want to give them as much, time and attention, because there are other deals waiting, to be done. That's the moral of the story. I'm not saying, don't go after deals that are 15K profit. Those are the deals, that are worth, spending some time on. But the deals that are smaller than that, they get eaten up so quick. If you don't have a buyer that'll take it, and it's going to be a frictionless kind of transaction, getting an agent involved, listing the property on the MLS, having them, front the money for professional photos and spend their time trying to market a deal that's not going to really have any wiggle room in case, any buyers want a concession or ask for repairs, is not really worth it, right? Because there exists an opportunity where, it's a clear-cut process to make 15K or more, right? So that's the takeaway. We got Mr. Real Estate, just about 20 and a half acres off of FM 2068 and Highway 50. It's 15 minutes from the new lake and 15 minutes to the town Walmart in Hunt County, Texas. Seller will walk with $300K net. They're going to list it Monday. What's the situation there, Mr. Real Estate? Feel free to come up and join us. Are you direct to the seller right now? It seems like they haven't hit the market yet, but it seems like they may be interested. And you might be looking for a buyer. I might be able to put you in touch, with somebody that could help you or be interested in buying this, or even list it for the seller and you get a commission regardless. There's some way, to make some money. Let's figure out what that looks like for you in this deal. Adam says it. Deal spreads usually get chopped down in escrow. Absolutely. This happens every time. Sellers, they come back, they need some more money, maybe payoffs, they show up, there are liens that were unexpected. You got to budget for these things. That's just the reality of the business. Jay, you want to talk about the seller finance opportunities and talk about, because we hopped on the phone with the seller and we discussed, a couple of different options of how we might be able to make the deal work. But you want to talk about maybe the give and take of a seller finance and discuss how we can structure an offer that would make sense not only for us, but for us to assign it?
Yeah, so it's also a tricky one. I think I spoke with a couple of people in the main chat. It kind of breaks even long-term rent. Maybe it meets the 1.00 NOI rate, whatever that Matt was talking about, but essentially it breaks even as a long-term rent. But I think I see a good potential in the midterm and the long. I mean, not the long-term pad split. But essentially, I think we're at 10%. No, we're coming at, so it's a 500K purchase price. We're coming in at 30K as a down payment. And of course, that leaves us, say we assign it to end buyer for 10%. That'd leave us a 20K assignment fee, maybe even more if a buyer is willing to pay over 10%. The rate for the duplex is going to be, I think, 5 or 5.5%. And then there's also the one in Douglasville, which is a 220K purchase price, come in at 10,000 down with the 4% rate. The duplex is a little discounted. It's pretty much, I think we're under at 500, and Zestimate has it at 630. So that leaves us some room and doesn't need too much work.
So what's the benefit, to the end buyer? Why would they want to buy this deal?
I guess you can say to hold it. Like I said, they're going to be, like I said, they come in with instant equity on both deals. So, and of course, they can park their money for cheap.
So they can park their money and then they benefit from the cash flow.
Correct.
If it's a pad split.
Cash flow, equity. Well, cash flow, equity pay down. So that, not everyone. I don't think everyone looks for cash flow. Some people just, they just want to park their money. They're paying down equity over time, as long as they're not losing money.
Good morning, Ricky.
Yo, I might buy that one in Douglasville. So let's. I want to hear you pitch it live. Pitch me this bad boy.
Let me see. Let me pull up the numbers.
Put the ball in his court. Give you the microphone, like John said. Why should I buy the one in Douglasville, man? Let me know.
Let me see. Let me find the numbers. One second. I was eating some breakfast. Let's see.
I get the bloggers blogging and the computers puting.
So the one in Douglasville, I want to say it's a 3-2. You can have it with tenants in there. You can buy without tenants. They're on month to month.
So what's the monthly PITI?
Let's see. One second. My computer's loading up. Let me see if I can pull up my email.
While Jay's pulling that up, Ricky, one of the things that Jay mentioned was, there are some buyers that don't buy necessarily for cash flow. How do you feel about that statement? As a potential buyer.
So are you saying so is it an equity play? Is that, or where's Jay getting at when he says that?
Yeah, so he said it's an equity play.
I mean, it depends too on the desirability of the area, right? That's true depending on your market. For context, Atlanta is just going downhill. Longer days on market, properties are losing values. I know Derner's in the chat. He had a deal a few months ago. ARV was like, there was comps for 350, 400. He couldn't get a buyer over like 120 on it. That just goes to show you the state of the current market in Atlanta, right? So Atlanta's not one of those places right now, but maybe someplace that's fucking booming, call it San Francisco or just some Northern Cal town. They're probably all day they want to do equity play, right? They don't care. But out here, no. I think it really just goes to, it's market by market, but generally speaking, the more desirable an area, you can probably find someone that's happy to break even. But if it's less desirable, obviously there has to be some kind of cash flow.
What are the minimums that investors are looking for on the cash flow side?
Say that again.
What are the minimums that investors are looking for on the cash flow side?
That's like case by case, bro. I mean, some people like their coffee with 2 sugars, other people like it with 4. It's really case by case. You know, I can't really answer that question for you because it really depends on who you're asking. That's the answer to your question right there.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's why I say that, because I said the buyer that I am speaking to, that I think this would be a good deal for, he's based out of Canada, and I guess he brings in a lot of investors in the area in Canada because they can't invest there because I guess they're not getting returns that they do here in the States. And like I
Yeah.
said, most of the time he doesn't even he can be losing $200 to $500 a month, and he doesn't care.
You know, another thing too is you know, there's a sucker born every day. So there are dumbasses who are like beginners that don't know what they're doing, and you could get away with assigning them a shitty deal. And but the problem with that is they're only gonna buy one, and that's it. You know, that's like New Westerns. I know a lot of folks at New Western. I don't know if this shit's recorded or live streamed, so I have to put that disclaimer. There's a lot of good people at New Western, but their whole business model for the most part is assigning to rookies, and that's just churn and churn. But you don't build those relationships with them. But that's something too. There's dumbasses born every day.
Yeah, I think like you're saying, that's not really a sustainable model, right? You want to make sure that you're finding good deals, and that's why it's also
Yeah.
important to know how to identify a good deal, right? So that's why we're up here talking about it. For you specifically, Ricky, if you were to buy this, what would your minimum look like? How much would you want to make personally on this deal each month for it to be worth your while?
What's the down payment, Jay?
Down payment probably gonna be asking like $30K for the Sumter one, which is the smaller one, not the duplex. So I'm looking at the numbers now. Probably $30K. We're gonna ask the buyer for $30K down on a $220K purchase price. PITI is $1,200. Estimated rents without value add is about $1,900. So cash on cash return is about 21%, bringing in 700 a
I mean, I
month.
know Douglasville pretty well. I mean, if that property's pretty dingy, you're probably looking at 16 to 1800 that you could rent it for on a good day, right? And that's kind of pulling teeth. What's the size of it?
It's a 4.2.
It's a what?
4.2.
Yeah, but what's the square footage?
1,350.
And you're asking, well, PITI is 1,200.
Correct.
Yeah, at a 30K down payment, I wouldn't, because we're kind of approaching DSCR numbers there at that point. Me, I would just pass on that bitch, but that's not my business model. I don't really, I'm not in
For
the game of
yourself,
almost.
what are you looking to come in under what?
Purchase price is 220.
Correct.
I'm doing this. I'm gonna say this for the folks in here, but if this was something that was given to me, I would start at a 12K down payment, and I would really tap out at call it 16K down, and I wouldn't really want to be PITI more than 1250. That's my tap out, right? But again, I'm not in the long-term rental game. I like Douglas. The only reason I would even entertain buying something out there is because I'm on the Northeast, right? I'm in Gwinnett. So a lot of what I do is on this side of Atlanta. I really do stay away from Cobb and Paulding County and Douglas County just because I hate having to drive through Atlanta because that could be 2 fucking hours every day, right?
Yeah.
Just one way. So I could blow through 3-4 hours. So the only reason I'd even consider buying something on that side of Atlanta is because I can have a home base and I can do more projects on that side of Atlanta. That's the only reason I would buy it, right? Just so I don't got to fucking cut through 4 hours of my day or spend fucking 500 in a few days on hotels. So that's the only reason I buy it, but that's not my game. I think right now, bro, I don't know. I don't think a lot of people would pay more than 10-12% down on the purchase price. I could be wrong, but that's just right now where we're at with the state of things right here in Atlanta.
Correct.
And the city of Atlanta, I don't even think you'd be able to sell it to an investor. You might have to do like a homestead buyer if you're in the city for a seller buy.
What's I talking about, the Douglasville one or the Atlanta one?
I'm talking, bro. I was talking about the Douglasville one, but right now I'm pivoting to Atlanta. Like, you got to be super. This shit has to be smoking in the city of Atlanta. And it's just a lot of reasons, bro. Like, there's not really a lot of equity in Atlanta because Atlanta's on the downfall, right? And it's really just it's a number of reasons. You know, it's higher crime, it's traffic's out the wazoo, incompetent city leadership. Property taxes keep going up. You know, the city of Atlanta, they run the government like a mafia, bro. I had a whole thing with the city of Atlanta over a house I had uh, that I just got finished with probably fall of last year, and that was fucking terrible, bro. I had to get the city councilman involved. They tried to eminent domain me. It was horrible, you know. So the city of Atlanta, bro, it's just not. It's fucking Gotham City, bro. I'm gonna just be straight up with you. Um, so Sellerfi is just not too hot there unless it's like stupid cheap, you know.
Yeah.
So you're saying 12% down might make sense. You know, the rest of the terms, do you think that's the only hurdle is just what, you know, an investor would have to put down to get into the deal?
But it's kind of like it's you gotta. It's like a sliding scale, right? Like you tweak this a little bit, you tweak that a little bit. But I think if I was, like I said, at that 16K range down, I think that PITI might work. But another thing we didn't even talk about was what's the term of this loan? Is it 30 years? Is it 5 years? Like we didn't even talk about that.
Yeah, so that's also another thing. It's a shorter balloon. He wants a balloon at 36 months with an option to extend. So that's 3 years. Option to extend. He has a 5%, a prepayment penalty of 5% for the first 12 months.
Okay.
What's the cash
And this
flow?
is
What's the cash flow look like?
The guy.
Go ahead, my bad.
You got it, Ricky.
I mean, off of what he said, it sounds like $400 or $500 a month. The guy definitely seems savvy because he threw in a prepayment penalty. I don't know if he ChatGPT'd the shit or if he's actually.
He has like 30 properties across Georgia, Florida. Yeah, he's pretty savvy.
I gotcha. Yeah. I guess at this point, it really just depends on where exactly in Douglasville it is. Is it kind of like East Douglasville to where it's closer to Cobb, or is it like way over there by Billerica, like West Douglasville? So that's going to be one thing too, and like the condition of the property, period, right? Because as everybody in here knows, they always say it just needs floor and paint, and you get in there and the shit looks like fucking I Am Legend, you know? So it really just depends on how the property looks. That's really going to be a big thing there, because what if it's beautiful? What if we don't got to put $1 into it? I think that's going to make it a lot more favorable, right? It's really, I think that's one of the big things we got to see what's going on there. But I mean, a 3-year with the option to extend, like what? Honestly, that's not too favorable, bro, because this guy's savvy, right? He's a business man. He's probably bleeding on this property. That's why he's like, I need to do something with it. But if it makes sense for him to just demand that fucking the rest of the purchase price, he's doing it.
He's doing a 1031.
Yeah. Okay, see, that's the thing. You're not gonna get a fucking home run out of a motherfucker like that, right?
Yeah, I mean, I shot some numbers. He's since back something that's I'm like,
he's a smart guy, bro. You know,
yeah.
And he's a smart guy. You know, those kinds of guys, you can make deals work with them, but it's gonna have to be mutually beneficial, and that you're never gonna get a fucking 0% interest until the fucking loan is paid off from a guy like that, right? Like it has to make sense. And the reason I even think that's worth considering is because if this motherfucker is gonna, you know, this whole keyword option to extend, well, under what circumstances is there any language in the agreement to where we can automatically extend, or is it just mutually agreed? Because if it doesn't make sense for him to mutually agree, he is definitely not going to give it up, or he's going to say, yeah, I'll do it, but give me another 50K, bitch. You know, like people like that, you're not going to get a crazy deal out of them, you know?
Yeah, he's already like, I can make more in a CD. I can make more on the stocks. So yeah, he's definitely savvy.
Yeah. So, I mean, to kind of ask again, what are the requirements, or is there any language in the agreement to extend after 3 years, or is that pretty vague?
So that we haven't got too deep on the prepayment penalty.
Yeah,
because we're just trying to make sure the numbers work to.
I don't think the prepayment penalty is a problem, right? Because the point of a seller finance, you want to keep that bitch riding for as long as you can, right?
Exactly.
I think what we really need to focus on is this option to extend, or maybe even changing it from 3 years to 5 years.
3 to 5. Okay.
Well, the
I mean,
balloon.
that would just make it more favorable.
How long is the balloon though? Because the prepayment penalty is at 3 years, but the
It,
balloon is for 6 years, right?
No,
it sounds
no,
like
prepayment penalty is at 1 year. The balloon is at 3 years currently.
Okay, so I mean, somebody that's buying a seller finance, they're not looking to pay it off, in the first year. They want to hold this, like Ricky said, as long as possible. So I don't know that that's going to be the issue. If it's just a 3-year balloon,
yeah.
that's not a
Yeah,
lot
and
of
that's the
time,
thing. Like I said,
for appreciation.
he is pretty savage. Like I said, he offered a couple different options. So he said even if we wanted to come in at balloon of 12 of 1 year, he'd lower the rate to 3.5. So, but 1 year, that's like I said, you're looking to hold it for a certain period of time.
1 year, that's like you're gonna go flip that property, like that. What's wrong with you, man?
Exactly.
So what are the numbers again? Let's run through what the actual estimated profit is.
So directly with the seller, without assignment fee, 220K purchase price, giving him a down payment of 10,000, monthly payment to him. So we have it right now, interest only at 600, interest rate of 4.5, and a balloon at 36 months, 3 years.
Okay, $600 payment to him. What's it bringing in right now? What's the rental bringing in right now?
Currently, as is with the tenants in there, or what does it have potential to be raised to?
As is, day one.
Let me see what he has there. 1 second. $1,800.
Okay, so we got 1,800, 600 off the top, to the investor. That's left 1,200. You want to put away,
Yep.
20% for the rainy day.
Property tax 200.
Property tax 200.
Correct.
How much are
month.
you all putting away for the rainy day fund? Are you putting away 20% or are you putting away more than 20%? Let me know in the side chat, ladies and gentlemen.
I think 20% is fair because that covers any kind of unforeseens, as well as when you can't rent the property. And right now, the state of the economy, bro, like you'd be really optimistic to think you're gonna get 100% occupancy.
Yeah, I mean,
Motherfuckers ain't got no money.
it depends, right? If the rent rate right now is below market, and you're not charging people out the wazoo, these people they're not going to go anywhere else, right? They don't have any other opportunity to get into a rental,
But
at a
renting
price.
at 800, I'd argue that renting at 800, 1,800 is top of the market for Douglasville. Douglasville is a rural city, bro. It's like 45 to an hour from Atlanta.
But they're
It's a
already
little.
there, right?
Correct.
How long have they been there?
Let's see.
Oh, it has 10. Oh, how much are they being? How much are they paying?
They're already paying 1,800.
Oh shit! I thought he was saying market rent is 1,800.
Yeah, and they've been there for 6 years.
Okay, so
Oh
they've been there for
they're
6 years. I don't think they're going anywhere anytime soon, unless we kick them out.
But that makes me ask the question: why does this guy want to sell?
He's retiring. So he's selling all of his properties, him and his wife.
I gotcha.
Okay, so at that price, after paying the $600 and then putting 20% to the side, for the rainy day fund, that looks like cash flow of $960 per month. $960. So there might be something I'm missing, but if we're taking that figure, let's just call it 900. We'll put the additional 60 to the side, for other expenses. Let's even be a little bit more generous, right? Because I don't know, maybe we're not accounting for insurance. If you want to go get insurance, let's say $600, right? $600 a month times 12 months. Okay, that's $7,200. Okay, for the first year.
I'm at 180.
How'd you get 180?
So $600, right? 200 for property taxes. 150 for homeowners insurance. Multiply that by 0.2, 950 plus 190. We're at 1140. You got that 20% off.
Well, let's say that again. So we're bringing in 1,800, right? 600 off the top's going to the seller. Okay. You're saying another.
Hold on. $600. That's what we're giving Mr. Seller.
Let's do it
Okay.
together. 1,800's coming in on a monthly basis, right? We're
Okay.
deducting 600 to go to the seller for their monthly
Well, I'm not
payment.
deducting. What I'm gonna add it all up, and then I'm gonna deduct at the end. So $600 is what we're giving to Mr. Seller. 200 for property taxes.
Okay. That's
Call
per
it
year
150
or per month?
per month.
Okay, so 200 per month.
I mean,
Put
I
that
don't
aside.
have the data. I'm just going off what Jay told me that property taxes are.
Do we
Yeah,
know
property
what property
taxes
tax? Go ahead.
It's let's see, 215 exactly.
A month?
Okay. 600 plus 215.
Okay.
John, there's nowhere in America you're paying $200 for a house a year, bro. What are you
I'm just saying, are you putting this aside for that per month, right? I'm trying to make sure we have it all written out here.
Yeah. Okay, so 600 plus 215. Now we're at 815, right? Call it 150 for homeowners insurance.
Okay.
Might be a little lower, but we want to be safe. So now we're at 965. Multiply that times 0.2. That's 193.
Okay, so I got $668, right? Doing the math backwards, we're bringing in the 1,800. We deduct the 600 of the seller. We deduct the 150. Let me do the look at the history. That way I got all of it correct here. So we had the 1,800. We took away the 600 for the seller. $215 for property taxes.
Mm-hmm.
Then we did the 150 for
homeowners insurance.
Okay, that left us with 835, and then we take off 20% from there, leaving us with 668. Okay, this is the net number, and like I said, I'm running it even more conservatively at 600, right? So 668 is the estimated number. Let's just run the conservative figure of 600. Okay, we're gonna multiply that for 12 months. Okay, so that's 7,200. We're asking the seller or the end buyer for what in terms of their down payment?
30K.
So we're gonna divide 7,200 by $30,000 to get a cash-on-cash return of 24%. So if you put down 30,000, you're getting a 24% return on your 30,000 in that first year. Okay. The balloon is for how many years? 3 years?
It's 3 years with an option to extend to.
3 years with an option to extend to. I would try to get 4-year balloon, because if we got the 4-year balloon and we left it in place, we'd be whole, break even in 4 years, just about. You know, at 24% per year, almost 25. You know, that's 100% in 4 years. You're getting double the return in holding this in cash flow than you would if you were to put the money in the stock market. Now, here's the real kicker. What does the interest look like after the 4 years? How much is now due? Because at that point, we got to either sell the property or refinance, right? Because there's a balloon at that point.
You said you would shoot for 4 years. I mean, I would really start the negotiations at 6 or 7 years, because I know that motherfucker's gonna, whatever you give him, he's gonna counter. And I would.
Yeah, we started at the first conversation. He asked for 5 to 10. He said he'd be comfortable with. Then he came back after we came lower. He came all the way down to 1 year, 1 to 2 years. He was like, it takes one to 2 years, and because like I said, I approached him saying we do pad split. He was like, okay, it'll take you this long. I'll give you 1 to 2 years to renovate it. Pay me my money.
That's the problem. This fucker's trying to do your homework for you, man. That's none of his business.
Exactly.
When you kind of give them that leeway, they really start to try to control the negotiation, especially with somebody like him. He's probably a fucking northerner. I'd put money on saying he has some kind of ties to New York or one of those states. He sounds like it. Yeah, no, I would start at 7 and just play hardball. Those kinds of sellers, you just got to lay down the law, my experience. And they play tough, but they're not really, you know.
Exactly.
Or give him the illusion he has control. I don't know if Steve's here, but he does this shit a lot where he'll give the seller stupid shit to make them feel like they won. That really doesn't matter to us. For example, like let's just say we know the property's good, and the seller wants like 2-week inspection period. We can say, hey, look, we always do 30 days, or we always do 45 days, but I don't know how, but we were able to get this done for you. And just in his head, he thinks that it's something fucking silly. It doesn't even matter. That's how you kind of appease those guys. But I think you should shoot for 5-year minimum on the balloon, and I'd really want to see a better defined explanation on what are the parameters that would allow us to extend, or is it just mutually agreed? Because someone like that's not going to agree if it doesn't benefit him
Exactly.
to extend. Well, you're putting the deal together, bro. So you tell me what's going on there.
Yeah. So like I said, we ever had the conversation regarding the option to extend terms. Like I said, we're really trying to dial in the numbers. Like I said, he keeps shooting different options.
Yeah.
We're just trying to get to it where it makes sense. Like I said,
that's the benefit of
regardless
bringing
it
it
makes
here,
sense,
right? Because now we can critically evaluate the deal and come up with terms that make sense and understand why they make sense, right? So again, thank you to everybody in here contributing to the conversation. Thank you, Ricky. Thank you, Jay. Thank you, Matt.
Hold on, look at
Tom,
what Matt just said. Matt just dropped it right there. Matt just cut through the noise. That's true. Build that equity up.
Let's take a look. Matt says, it can be so much simpler than this too. Balloons get paid off by selling or refinancing. Regardless, you will need a minimum of 20% equity to do either one of those. What's the day one value / purchase price? Then, what will you owe at the end of the current balloon structure? What is the equity percentage between those two figures? Less than 20%? Okay. How many additional months do you need to hit 20%? We're making it way too complicated. Well, that's why, we brought it here, is to simplify it, right? And to get a more experienced perspective, right? So that we can become 1% better each day.
Yeah, at one point, wasn't all Matt was doing was seller finance?
That's right. He was the creative, the king of creative here. Mr. Creative Man.
Well, there we go. Here's his bread and butter, bro. He just gave the playbook right there. What is the ARV? We haven't even talked about that, Jay.
ARV. So I've been doing so many deals. Let me try to do it really quick. Let's just say PropStream estimates it right now currently at 240. But let me try to do quick ARV.
Mr. Matt sold
just
$3 million personal portfolio.
Just get the man up here, man. He drops 4 gems in a clumsy minor, man. Get him up here.
We can invite him up. We'll see. I don't know if he's busy making calls or what he's up to.
Man, it's the disciples talking, man, but we got to hear it straight from the source. You know what I mean? Why do we speculate when he's right there? Hey, Matt, just put the money counter on autopilot, bro, and get up here.
There you go. He raised his hand.
I invited him.
Trying to get up here.
We'll see if he'll.
Oh, you invited him.
No, he got up out of here. Oh, no, he's right there.
Tom says he needs at least 30% to refi. I think definitely makes sense, after the balloon period, right? But at least maybe 20% day one, so that you can continue to build that equity up over time, so that when the balloon period comes around, you're closer to that 30% number. Because that's absolutely right? Because if you go to refinance, you're only going to get 75% loan to value. It's important, for people to understand these concepts so that when they're making offers, they understand how these numbers work and why they need to be at where they're at with their offers, especially if the plan is to assign this to another investor, right? Because you gotta put this other investor in the position to succeed, right? We're not just collecting an assignment fee, shilling a shitty deal. We're here to actually help somebody get into a great opportunity, and that's how we earn our assignment fee.
Talk to him.
Yep. Working it backwards, ladies and gentlemen.
Well, John, why wouldn't we sell a shitty deal to an investor?
Like you said, Ricky, number one, they're not going to buy it. The astute investors, they're not going to buy it. And if you find somebody, that will buy it, they're not going to continue to do business with you, right? Because you're not putting them.
Why wouldn't they want to do business with you? What if they want to buy shitty deals? Or why? What if they really like you, John? What if you're super cool?
They'll run out of money if they keep buying these shitty deals, right? The only way they're going to be able to
say that one more time. I didn't hear that, bro.
They'll run out of money if you sell them shitty deals. The idea is, you make their business money so that they can continue to support your business, right?
You heard the man.
That's how you do good business. You wanna put people in a position to succeed so that they can come back and continue to do business with you and then refer their friends.
And that's how you build relationships. I'll be honest, bro. Sometimes when I buy shit off of wholesalers and they're solid and they I make a lot of money with them at some point, I say, hey, bro, you want to go half on this with me? And it's because I respect them. You're not giving me shitty deals. You're not trying to fuck me over. Let's make money together, bro. So it helps you have a level up too. If you're doing business with the right person. But nobody's going to respect you if you're the guy that sends shitty deals. And if you get known as that guy that sends shitty deals, you might actually have a good deal, but because fucking 9 of the deals you sent in the past month suck ass, I'm not checking number 10, bro.
And that's why it's so important, for the marketplace that we're vetting the deals. We're not pushing deals to our vetted buyer pool, the exclusive vetted buyer pool, if they're not following our requirements. Okay, it's a free marketplace. You could submit whatever deal you want, but it doesn't mean that it's going to qualify to get in front of people that need to see it. It's got to be a good deal, and that's what's going to keep attracting buyers to want to continue to pay attention to the marketplace. Is because every single time we actually push something and put it in front of people, the numbers make sense, and it's a good opportunity for somebody to buy and make money.
Look who overcame stage fright. Welcome.
We're in the presence of greatness, ladies and gentlemen.
I was nervous.
Too nervous to put on the camera or what?
Just hold my hand, man. It'll be okay.
I ain't got service for the camera.
He's out and about. He's up in the mountains.
Yeah, I mean, I think the seller finance structures and all that, obviously breaking it down, like all the things that you guys broke down are obviously important. Don't get me wrong. You want to be able to figure out your expenses, maintenance, anything else along those lines. But also equally important is you can't discuss a balloon with a seller without knowing what I was referring to. So again, if this is an investor to investor deal, the only true, I mean, there's many ways, but the two main ways that you're going to pay off a balloon is by selling that property or portfolio or refinancing. Investor to investor, you only have access to investor financing if it's a refinance. You're not an owner occupant. You don't have access to FHA, 3.5% down, conventional 5. You're a minimum of 20%. So when you're refinancing, you need a minimum of 20% equity on that balloon in order for you to have a clean and clear refinance, which again, that's 20% equity, not including closing costs or any other additional fees. And somebody posted too, they believe it's more like 30. And I agree, because again, if you haven't been in the game long enough, 20% is always the number that people push out for DSCR and things like that. People don't understand that as the markets get worse, loan products shrink and dry up. Financing becomes more difficult. So 20% products go away or they become harder and harder. LTV products become harder and harder. So now instead of 80% LTV products that are everywhere in a good market, now all of a sudden it gets pushed to 75% LTV. So now you need 25% equity. I don't know if you guys think that this is a good market we're in right now, but I would say the opposite. So a 20% product is probably not going to be something that you can obtain. Now, maybe, and I'm not saying you can't, but it just becomes more difficult depending on the market. So I also agree that you should be looking for a 30% equity. So when you're running these numbers and you're pitching a balloon, you have to understand, where am I going to be when that balloon comes? So again, $200,000 purchase price, let's just call it. I use like the day one purchase more than the ARV, especially if they're close, right? Like if the day one purchase price that I'm negotiating is 200,000 and the ARV is 215, I'm just going to use the day one purchase price because it's close and whatever. So at 20% minimum, what is that? 160. So I need to, if this seller's like, I want a 3-year balloon and a 7% interest rate and whatever else. Okay, cool. Let me go plug it into my calculator. $200,000 purchase price, 7% interest. Here's what my monthly payment's going to be. 4-year balloon. Oh shit, I'm going to owe you $180,000 in 3 years time. I will not have a successful refi or sale. I won't be able to pay off this balloon. So now I can have an educated counter and an educated conversation with that seller on why these terms don't make sense. I've preached this now for 5 years. You guys need to have if you're doing seller finance and you're structuring terms, you need to have some sort of calculator so you can have educated conversations with these sellers where you are legit they want let them tell you their terms first. I want an 8%, 20%. They're going to tell you the craziest terms. Put that in the calculator, screenshot that, send it to them and say, here's your terms. Here's your property insurance. I put it in here. Here's the estimated insurance. Here's the property taxes, everything else. Look, this is now showing a negative $500 a month cash flow. You want a 3-year balloon. It says that I'm going to owe you this in 3. Like, you can actually show them from an educated standpoint of why these numbers don't work. And now together, you can start changing terms. What if we did a 5% interest rate instead of an 8%, like you suggested? Okay, that brings my monthly payment here, gets me closer to breaking even. My balloon balance is better. You guys can actually start moving numbers around appropriately, or at least if you're not negotiating with the seller, you can do it yourself in real time and figure out where you need to be. Okay, Mr. Seller, if you're really stuck on 8% and whatever else, this payment and this, I can give you that if you give me a 10-year balloon, and here's why. Because by 10 years, I owe this amount of money, and now I can do a successful refinance or sale without the risk of not being able to pay off this balloon if you're stuck on the 8% in this payment. If I can make these payments better, then I can shorten up my balloon. So you can't just like willy-nilly throw out numbers and then be like, oh, well, he wants 3 years. That's too short. I agree it's too short, but why is it too short? Are you just saying it because a 3-year balloon sounds short? Or do you have actual evidence of why that's too short? And then to be like, oh, well, just go renegotiate with him and just ask for a 7 because he's going to counter back at shorter. Well, why are you asking him for that? You know what I mean? So just educate yourself with some sort of calculator or something so you have that and you're prepared for that conversation in real time. And that helps sellers sometimes too, because again, we always say sellers are not in the game like we are. When you ask a seller for terms, they're just going to tell you the same terms. Go ask 50 sellers what their terms are if they want to do seller financing. They're all going to tell you 8% and 20% down. They don't know what it means. They've never put those figures into a mortgage calculator and ran a monthly payment or an amortization schedule or nothing. They have no idea what it means. So it's your job to actually input that into a calculator and show them what that means. You're the professional in this scenario. So don't overcomplicate it. But I mean, again, you want to know all of your expenses and all the things you guys were running before, but equally as important and almost before that in a way, you need to figure if you're discussing a balloon, which I'm a big proponent of, don't discuss a balloon because once you say it, it now exists. A lot of sellers don't understand balloons. They don't know anything about that. So if you bring it up, now they know it exists. They want that. So you need to understand if a balloon is being talked about, you got to reverse engineer the numbers and figure out what you're going to owe. So then you can restructure. You can't discuss interest rates and all that without knowing what you're going to owe. So it all comes together at the same time.
If you don't talk about it, it doesn't exist. Boom.
You don't talk about it, doesn't exist. Again, they don't. And I'm not saying like pull one over on sellers and do these things. But again, if you don't talk about it, it doesn't exist. And then if it does get brought up in the conversation organically, naturally, then you can discuss it. And then again, if it didn't exist in the beginning and it gets brought up and now they're talking about it, now you can educate them. Okay, we can put a balloon in place if that's very important to you, but here's what we're going to have to put in place in order for that balloon to make sense.
Okay,
It's
that leads
just-
me to this question.
Yeah.
You were talking about this 20% equity. Is that your primary goal, and you'd be okay paying an obscene interest rate, or is that just a safeguard to make sure you're not losing your shirt, and anything else is just extra on top?
You can't, I mean, if your goal is to hold the property, so again, let's say you put a 3-year balloon in place and you can structure it to where by year 3, I have 20% equity, hopefully,
Yeah.
then I'm just going to do a refinance then, and I don't get any money out of the refinance. I'm just refinancing to whatever the rates and terms are of traditional financing at that time. So those rates and terms could be better than what I'm getting with the seller financing. It could be worse. But if I'm not making any money on that refinance, what other benefits did I get during that 3 years? Did I cash flow? Because if I'm not cash flowing during that 3 years and there's no benefit of my refinance when the balloon, what am I doing? What's the point of this deal?
Yeah, because let's say hypothetically, let's call it 3 years, right? Let's just say 3 years, we hit that 20% equity threshold, but for whatever reason, interest rates are now 12%. Well, that sucks ass. And
Correct.
back
And
to
if
what
I-
you said, we did it all for nothing. We went through all these hoops and hurdles.
Correct. And
For what?
if I didn't cash flow for that 3 years too, and then I'm taking, because again, the balloon is a risk, right? That's why most like commercial loans, you're talking 5-year arm, 7-year arm, 10-year arm. It's not really common for a 3. So, and we're just using 3 as an example, but like the balloon is a risk primarily to the buyer because we are forecasting the future that we don't know what that world is going to look like. 3 years, 5 years from now could be another COVID where it's 2% interest rates. Or like you said, it could be the opposite. It could be 12%. I don't know. So that's my risk. So again, what's the purpose of me doing this deal if the balloon expires at a time where I have no equity in the deal? Because again, as an investor, I need bare minimum 20% just to service a refinance and make no money and just transfer my debt from the seller to traditional financing. So there's no incentive for me there unless rates and terms are better and maybe my payment goes down a little bit and I can cash flow a little bit more. But let's just say it's the same. So I make no money on the refinance. My rate and term is the same. And then I didn't cash flow at all during the 3 years either. So I just parked my money in this property or portfolio, didn't make any money per month. And then on the refinance, I didn't make any money either. My only other option is to sell then at that point. And the average cost to sell right now in this shitty market is about 10%, which is 6% commissions, 2% closing costs, 2% miscellaneous. I think in certain markets, it's more than 10% because we're getting buyers that are asking for 5 and 6% credits on FHA. So I think even selling it can be 10 to 15%. So I agree with who wrote it in the chat. I think you should be structuring these balloons if you have to have them to at least from your day one purchase price to your balloon payoff, gotta be 30%. Because now you can, if you can structure it to where it's at least 30%, it's more appealing to a buyer, right? Because I'm willing to accept, especially if it's a solid market, solid underwriting, we're very confident in the day one purchase price and where we think the market's going to be in 3 years, 4 years, 5 years. If you can structure it so I'm getting at least 30% equity when the balloon is due, I'm willing maybe to accept a little less cash flow per month during that period of time, because really this is a play for me to get money on the back end tax free when I do a cash out refinance and I transfer the debt from the seller to traditional financing. But again, if you guys aren't structuring it to where there's no incentive for again, you're buying a rental property for 2 things: cash flow primarily. I mean, obviously there's tax benefits, depreciation, all that. That's getting further in the weeds, but primarily cash flow and equity for a sale or for a refinance. buy and hold, your properties become little piggy banks for you, ATMs. You do cash out refinance every 4, 5, 6 years and free money. And then you're rolling that into another property. So the whole point, if it's a true buy and hold investor, when that balloon is due, they're going to refinance into traditional debt. The real goal is to do a cash out refinance and pull equity out so they can roll that into something else. So you got to give them something. If it's a short balloon with no real equity upside, you got to give them tremendous cash flow. And if you're not giving them tremendous cash flow, you got to give them equity on the back end.
So to recap,
And the only way you guys can do that is to really put this into a calculator, like I've preached for 5 years, the 10B2 calculator, which is a mortgage calculator, amortization, everything, to figure out what your payments are, figure out what your balance is going to be at the end of each balloon period, to figure out how far you need to stretch these balloons in order for it to make sense if the seller's not willing to move off of their terms.
So let me summarize here and tell me if I'm correct in this.
Sure.
Non-negotiable, 20% equity is what you want, right? That's the non-negotiable. That's your safeguard. And then you're either obviously in a perfect world, you're getting crazy cash flow and the equity, right? But if you want one or the other in order for this to be appeasing or appealing to somebody.
Correct. I mean, again, if this is a buy and hold scenario and it's not a fix and flip, it's not a big value add, it's something that's kind of more retail based, something that you would probably do a novation on if you were wholesaling it, because it doesn't need a lot of work to tremendously increase the value. And maybe it already has a tenant in place, like I think you guys were discussing, and or that would be the plan regardless, is putting a tenant in place because this is a rental property. Then that buyer, that traditional true buy and hold buyer, wants cash flow, and then they either want to hold it long enough to where they can do a cash out refinance in the future, or sell later down the road after probably 5 years. But they're going to have to equity in the property, so it's got to be cash flow or equity, or the banger of both is having both cash flow and equity.
Okay, so if this was on a triangle, we want to hit at least 2 of these 3. 3 are beautiful,
Correct.
but we want at least 2. Boom. Made it simple, boys.
And
Got
again,
that.
that's the thing that people don't. It's you're selling to an investor, so it has there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. It has to be 20% equity because they're an investor. They don't have they're not living in that property. And sellers need to know that, if you're having educated conversations with them and like, here's why I need this much equity. Sounds like a lot of equity, right? From 200,000, I need to owe 160 bare minimum by the balloon date. So if you put a 1-year balloon, I have to pay off $40,000 in principal balance within 12 months. Sounds like a lot. It is a lot. 20% equity is a lot, but that's us as investors. That's the access. That's the financing access that we have. If you were selling this to an owner occupant who's going to live in the property, they have access to 3.5% and 5% down. They need far less equity than I need. $200,000 purchase, they could owe 190 and make it work. But
Question
you're
for
not
you,
selling that. You're not selling it to an owner occupant. You're selling it to an investor.
Question for you, Matt. How do you feel about principal only payments, interest only payments, things of that nature?
I don't mind it. Again, that's where you having these calculators will make this so much easier for you, because you can start moving numbers around so fast. So he goes, hey, once you start getting into the terms of the seller, it goes, okay, what's most important to you? Is there a minimum monthly payment that you're looking to hit? Is that why you're doing the 8% interest rate? Is that why you're try to really pinpoint what's the most important here? Because again, they likely don't know what they're saying. So is it the interest rates? Are you hard fixed on that? You don't care what the monthly payment is? Or is it a monthly payment you feel like you need for whatever reason, for your car payment, your credit cards, whatever? If he happens to say, oh, it's the monthly payment, I just want to make $1,000 a month, and that's what I think this is. Okay, cool. You know what I can go do now? I can go move that amortization from a 30-year to a 20-year to a 10-year. I can take that interest rate and shave it all the way down. I can start moving numbers around to where he still achieves $1,000 a month, but I'm now getting better terms because I can change the amortization schedule to now where majority of my payments going to principal. Or, hey, instead of doing interest, because here's a thing that you can angle, right? The higher the interest rate, the faster that the buyer is likely going to want to refinance, right? Because the interest rate sucks. So they're not guaranteed that interest rate. So they can say 8%, 10%, whatever. You're only guaranteed that for every payment I make. But instead of doing it that way, why don't we just stack an interest rate? Let's just stack additional principal on top. So instead of a $200,000 purchase price, what if we did 225? So now you're guaranteed the interest because we put it on the principal. You're getting that money no matter what, because when I refinance or I sell, the original purchase price is now 225. That's what you're getting. Where if we do 200 with an 8%, well, what if I get lucky and I sell or refinance in 6 months? You only got 6 months worth of interest, which might be $1,000 worth of interest, or whatever that number is. You're going to collect far less with this structure than if we just stack it on top of the original asking price. Now, don't do that unless you're running the numbers, though, because let's say, again, you're at 200 at 6% interest and your payment is whatever it might be. And then instead you go, let's just do 225 and now essentially no interest and it's just principal only. Well, now you have to figure out still, now your day one purchase price is 225 instead of 200. How long is it going to take principal only for you to get to that 160 balance? So it can be effective, but what a lot of these guys do is they stack too much on that purchase price. And then they put a 6-year balloon on it, and the terms are actually worse than what it would be if it was a lower purchase and an interest rate. So just make sure you're not stacking too much in regards to your balloon.
Okay, we just heard it straight from the Emerald tablets. Now I gotta ask.
Does that make sense?
Definitely does.
Really simplified it, but Jay,
like not throwing shade on anybody but there's other communities out there that their main selling point is doing 0% deals. And I've seen a lot of them get structured where, again, it looks good on paper until you start running numbers and then you realize they stacked I've seen them as high as 20% over asking price, over day one value for a 0% rate. And then they slap it. Yeah. And then they slap a 6-year balloon on it. And then you look, and by the 6th year, the balance that is owed is still higher than the day one value 6 years ago.
So it was all for nothing.
So it was all for nothing. It looks good,
they get
right?
The cash flow, right? I mean, they have to have something. They have to have one of the arms, right? They had to have benefited from the cash flow at least. They may have,
correct.
Lost
but now they're
foreclosure.
fucked.
They might default. But
yeah,
they got that
now they're fucked. Yeah, but again, you're getting cash flow. But let's say I have to put 50 grand into the deal to get a 0% rate, and I cash flow. Am I breaking even with the cash flow that I'm receiving in that 6 years? Did I even break even on the 50 grand I put into the deal? Or did I just park my money in there for 6 years and maybe I get my 50 grand back maybe in cash flow over that 6 years? And then now my balloon balance that's owed it's more than what I bought it for 6 years ago.
That makes sense.
So now I have no successful exit on this.
And that's assuming you never had any much on.
Yeah, and that assumes exactly. That assumes in 6 years there was never a furnace that had to get anything, outside of the war chest that you put off to the side of 5 or 10%. Nothing big or major has happened over that 6 years time to further lower your cash flow that you'd be receiving. So they're stacking a lot of these guys. They're I don't say they're teaching it that way, but when new people hit their communities, those people are stacking too much. And so again, for the uneducated or just newer buyer, they're looking at it and not running their due diligence on what is this house worth today. They're just seeing 0%. They're seeing these things and then just going, wow, that's amazing. I'm getting a 0% interest deal. This you can't get this anywhere. It's a no-brainer. Not realizing that 20% got stacked on top of this. you're not going to pay off 20% in principal, even at 0% in 6 years or 5 years time. So now you're playing the appreciation game on a 0%. You need your property bare minimum to appreciate 5% essentially a year and never have a down year in that 5 or 6 year balloon because they stack too much on the principal. But there's ways, again, it's not saying that that's a bad idea. There's just ways to do it, and you have to do it with knowledge, like for a reason. Why am I putting this much on to the purchase price? Or why is my interest rate this? Or why am I asking for this balloon?
This would be a good addition to the site, would be an underwriting tool, creative underwriting tool. Obviously, you know, the 10B2 calculator is goated. You know, definitely download that. Matt's been preaching that last 5 years. I got it. But maybe being able to, you know, have the sliders, you know, to move the different variables around to visualize, okay, if I do more down, you know, where can the seller be flexible with me? If I do higher interest, you know, what does that monthly payment look like?
I legit built a wholesaler with Claude yesterday. I built a wholesaler calculator. I'm finishing up my buy and hold calculator right now this morning. And then I'm doing a seller finance one as well, just to have, and just, you know, again, free. I don't care. But I just wanted it to get it.
You got to sell that.
I wanted to get off the old school. It is. I mean, it's a normal. It's cool though. It's just it's you know, it's got some emojis. It's very like fun to play with, and it's real easy, and it does what my spreadsheets do. It's just more modernized and off of like a Google sheet. But like I said, it's just cash is the easiest, right? You guys run your same formulas, whether it's 70%, upwards of 80% ARV, depending on the market, minus repairs, minus assignment fee. Pretty cut and dry. You might have a different formula that kind of gets you to the same result, but cash is very simple. You can explain to the seller why your cash offer is where it is. Sure, some of you guys do, some of you don't, some of you don't. But with seller financing and subject to and all this, again, it's a high-level acquisition strategy. It's something that can be fantastic, but you can also get yourself in a lot of trouble, and I say that with quotes, in terms of structuring the deal and the terms that you put in place. If you don't realize it, completely don't make sense. And it's not your obligation to have the buyer do their due diligence. They're a big boy or big girl. It's their job to do their due diligence. And if they buy a deal that doesn't make sense, that's on them. But bad terms can put a buyer in a bad spot to where now they owe fucking $200,000 in 3 years or 4 years, and they're upside down. And again, not your fault, but it's just, again, it's very important to understand why you're saying what you're saying, what the numbers actually mean. And then it becomes very powerful once you realize what those numbers are and you start moving them around really fast in real time so you can structure the deal appropriately.
There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Matt, we sincerely appreciate you. Definitely keep us posted on when you get ready to release the calculator. Put a price tag on it, please. I'd happily buy it. I'm sure as everybody else would. Let's make today a phenomenal day, ladies and gentlemen. We've been on here. Everybody should have been able to take something away from this conversation. Let us know in the side chat before we go. Drop some support. Drop a happy Matt in the chat if you took something away from the conversation today that you can go and implement immediately in your business. And please invite somebody you think would benefit from being in proximity with us. We put on these lives to really change lives, right? We're not here to just entertain people. Every single time we hop in here and we have a discussion, there's something that we can immediately implement. There's some sort of instruction. There's some sort of takeaway. So again,
Real quick.
Absolutely, Ricky.
Let's ask Jay. After hearing that, Jay, is there anything you're going to change about your approach to this guy with your Douglasville deal?
Yeah, so everything I've already ran everything through the calculator. I was fixing it up also for the duplex. The duplex numbers, they're pretty good.
Yeah.
But
Is
yeah,
there anything you're changing at all, or are you just going to keep it the way you had it?
So I'm definitely got to change some stuff on the Douglasville one, but the other one I think is.
Well, let's define some stuff, bro. He just that was for you, brother.
Yeah.
The reason I'm asking is not because I'm nosy, but so the folks could see you had the theory explained. Now let's see the execution, and you're Mr. Execution right here. So we just I'm trying to tie it all together.
Correct. Yeah, so it's gonna take me some time to figure out what I need to change. Like I said, I'm having Claude right now, change up my calculator, get some numbers fine tuned.
So what's one of the things that's kind of a hunch that you're going to change up?
Say that one more time.
What's one of the things you're going to change up, or one of the hunches you have? Like, okay, I need to tweak this a little bit.
The balloon needs to be changed a little bit.
Okay.
Well, a good, but
are you going to implement, or at least attempt to get that 20% safeguard?
Yeah, so like I said, on the bigger deals, like I said, the 20% is already built in. Probably more than 20% in equity already. The smaller property in Douglasville, that one does need 20%.
Good shit, bro. Let the good folks know when you got it going, because I know you're going to get it done.
Yes, sir.
That's what we got, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you all so much. Please invite somebody you think will benefit from being in proximity with us. We cover so many different topics. It's not just residential real estate. It's not just wholesaling. It's not just off-market cash assignments. We do it all. So this is the room to be in, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Money Chat. We're getting 1% better each day. We will catch you next Monday. Take care, everybody.